Hey guys, it's Ozima. 9 months after I started learning Japanese, I took and passed the JLPT N1 using pretty much 5 simple steps. And in this video today, I want to go through those steps and explain it to those who in the future plan on taking the JLPT for any level really, but in particular the M1 and want to pass in a relatively short amount of time. So just a bit of background for those of you who don't know. I started studying Japanese, I think in October of 2018. And then in July of 2019, I took the JLPT N1 and passed with no previous experience doing any JLPTs. And it was my first try and I passed first go. So the first step, and by far the most important one, is immersion. From the get-go, right from the day you start, you need to be immersing in Japanese all day. Wake up, put your earphones in, listen, and it doesn't have to be active immersion, just passive, just listening, doing other stuff, it doesn't matter. Just listen all day, and then when you have time, sit down, watch YouTube and do things like that, and do some active immersion as well. I'd say 2 to 3 hours. If you can do more, that's better, but at minimum, 2 to 3 hours per day. And this immersion, this process of listening, goes from the start to the end. Although it's step one, it's continuous throughout this entire process. The second step is RTK, remembering the kanji. In my opinion, this is going to be really important for doing JLPT, because if you get the kanji, even say there's a word you don't know, you can kind of figure out the meaning of the word through this. Because the point of this and the point of this video isn't to get, it's not the best road to get good at Japanese fast. It's for those of you who want to pass the JLPT as quick as possible. So this whole process is catered around passing it as quick as you can. Not the optimal path to fluency in Japanese, but the optimal path to passing the JLPT in the shortest amount of time. So for that reason, RTK is going to become extremely important. And not only that, it also, because of the nature of the JLPT, that's also going to dictate the way you have to do RTK, remembering the kanji. So for this, we're going to be using Anki. For those of you who don't know what Anki is or how to use it, check out my previous videos on that. But I'm assuming most of you who are watching this probably do know. So you get Anki and you get this book RTK. And what RTK is, I think I left out that, but what RTK is, you get a list of the top, I think, 1500 kanji, the most common ones. And it gives you a word associated with that in English. And so you get the kanji and the word, and it's kind of like that. And so the process of what you're going to do is on Anki, on the front of the card, you put the kanji. And then on the back of the card, the meaning, you just put the word. And so what you want to do is you want to go through on Anki, I'd say, what I did, I added 50 a day. So you add 50 a day and you just put in the word on the back, kanji on the front, and start repping them out like that, 50 a day until you're done. And then just keep doing your reviews after that as well. Now the third step is once you've done RTK and you're still immersing and you'll continue to immerse, you need to start on learning the Japanese basic grammar. And the way I'd suggest doing this, well, the way I did it, and I would really think is by far the best way, you get Take Him, Take Him's Guide to Japanese, and you just read it. Don't try and memorize it, don't try and, write it down and do something like that. Just read the whole thing. Go all of his site, just read the whole thing. Do it as quick as you can. I don't think it matters. Like the whole point of this video and the whole point of this process is to pass the JLPT as quick as possible. So you just read it. Just read it as quick as you can, get it done with, and that'll put in your head the basis of it. And when you read it, make sure you understand it. Don't just read it and then skip over what you don't understand. Read it and don't progress onwards until you understand the concept and then keep going. Now, after you've got this real basic knowledge of Japanese grammar, I'm sure you're probably going to be able to understand most of Japanese in terms of grammar. You just won't have the vocab. Because when you're going through Take Him, they'll have all the example sentences and you don't move on until, like I said, you've understood each sentence and then you keep going. So after you've finished, if you've understood all that, therefore you have a basic knowledge of the Japanese grammar, and that's all you're going to need forever. Now the fourth step, what you're going to do is you go on to jisho.org, I'll link it in the description, but when you go on to jisho.org, you'll have an option to filter words by their JLPT level. So what I did, and what I think you should do, is you go JLPT 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and in order, you learn the words of each of those. Because right now, the JLPT doesn't have an official word list, but it did in the past. So they have those lists of words, so you can go through and learn all of these words now. Now, in terms of how you can learn these words, the way I'd suggest is, of course, use Anki for this. You want to use Anki through this whole process. And what you're going to do is you take each one of these words, and for the start, it's going to be hard to do this, so you might just, learn the word on its own. But every chance you get, what you want to do is you go onto Google, paste in that word, and find somewhere where there's a sentence you can understand with that word in it. and then you take that and put it in the Anki and make a sentence card. You know, I've got a video on sentence cards from YouTube, but you can do the same process of making a sentence card, but with these words that you've taken and found a sentence from some website on Google from. And then on the back, you use the jisho.org meaning, or if you eventually want to, you can use a monolingual dictionary, but at the start, you're going to be using a bilingual jisho.org's meanings. So you use that and you start going through memorizing the words. Now, I did this in 9 months. So the thing is, I looked and I said, okay, I've got this amount of time and this is the amount of words I need to learn. So how many am I going to have to learn a day to get through the entire thing? So I recommend doing the same thing. So you've got a goal. This is when I want to pass the JLPT. And then you say, okay, how many words would I need to learn to get through this entire list by then? And so for me, what that looked like is at the start, I was doing 20 words per day, and then that wasn't enough. So then I stepped it up to 40, 50, 60, and I sat at 60 for a while. Yeah, I ended up doing 500, 600 reviews a day at some points, but if you want to pass in such a short amount of time, I think that's necessary. Like, that's just the way it is. Because you're trying to do something which would normally take years and years and years in the process of 9 months. It's not going to be something super easy, but this is how you can do it. Like, you don't even have to do this as extreme as I'm saying it. You can take this whole methodology and just slow it down and do it over the process of 1-2 years. You're still going to get the same result, you may even get a better result, but it's still going to be the same general process of doing this. And through this whole process, again, you're going to be immersing through this entire thing morning to night. Like I said, that's what you're going to be doing this whole time if you want to get the results that you need to pass the JLPT. Because this immersion is what's actually going to be the main thing that's building your Japanese to the next level. All the words in kanji and grammar, all that is to take your immersion to a higher level. It gives you something to look out for you in your immersion. And that immersion is the real thing though, that takes you through your levels of Japanese and gets you to a high level and gets you to the ability to pass the JLPT test, which means you can't skip out on it. That's the main thing. Say you don't learn words for a day, you don't do your kanji for a day, that doesn't matter, but still be immersing every single day. That's the main thing that you have to keep throughout the entire process. Now the fifth step, the final step, isn't really a step, but what it is all I'm saying is, don't use any textbooks for the JLPT. Don't sit down and start doing some exercises or some bullshit like that. You don't need it. You don't need any textbooks. They're useless in my opinion for passing any test. I mean, I did it in 9 months, no textbooks, and passed first go on the JLPT N1. I've never done 3, 4, whatever. Just the N1 pass, boom, done. No textbooks. You don't need it. They charge you so much money to use something that's pretty much, it's not useless, but like, it's so inefficient. Why would you even use it when you can do all this for free? Like, this video, it costs you nothing. You watch this and you can do everything that I said and you'll pass. I spent no money passing this test. I just did it. Like, you don't need to pay money. That's the biggest mistake I think people make, is they go and they do, oh, I'll do a N5 course and we'll go through and we'll learn all the grammar. Why? There's no point. Just sit there and just do this and you'll pass. That's the only thing that you need. Like, I still remember when I was there, I was sitting at the front of the test theater, whatever you want to call it. Everyone's there with their textbooks, like, you know, writing stuff down, doing all this. And I'm just sitting there doing nothing. I was just chilling, you know, because test anxiety, that fucks you over as well. If you've got test anxiety, your recall rate is just gonna go down. There's plenty of studies on that, you know. Go look at, test anxiety, recall, and all that stuff. It's just, you know, it's the worst thing. It's gonna just ruin your performance in the test. And the whole point of this isn't to get good, you'll get good at Japanese in the process, but it's just to pass the test in the most efficient way as possible. So therefore you want to reduce test anxiety. So the best way to do that is don't use these bullshit books to study. Just do this method that I just said and you'll pass, I guarantee it. Like, if you don't pass in 9 months, you know, maybe I just got lucky, but if it's not 9 months, you know, 1 year and a half, that's all it's going to take you either way if you do this method, I guarantee it. Now, just a little add-on in the end. You know, the JLPT, if you think of what it's like, it's all reading, listening, and grammar, and it's all input. You're inputting it in, and then you write the answers and you pick which one sounds the best or whatever it is. There's no output section. You don't speak, you don't write, there's none of that. So at first glance, you might think, well, if that's the case, and all I want to do is pass this test, because you might want to go work in Japan, go to university there or something like that, you might think, okay, I don't need to speak, I don't need to write, but I think in reality, it can really help you to speak and have that communication with native speakers, because it allows you to like interact with the language better, get and start communicating with people. And Not only that, it can increase your motivation to do it, like remind you why you're doing this. Because like the method I've just said, it's clearly not easy to do. It's pretty intense, and you might get halfway through and think, what am I doing this for? Like, what is the point at this point? It's just like terrible. You know, I didn't enjoy doing all this as well for the 9 months I did it. So talking to a native speaker or texting them or something like that, in some ways can rekindle your motivation to keep going. So in terms of passing the test, I don't know, I have no reference point to say how much that helps, because I talk to them and I don't know anyone who's done the same method as me and hasn't talked to them, so I can't compare the two. But I know that I don't know if I would have been as motivated this whole time to do it if I wasn't talking to native speakers. So if you feel like you want to, just do it. Don't think like, oh no, I can't because it's not gonna help and I'm trying to, get to this goal of passing the JLPT N1 as quick as possible, so I can't talk. Don't think that way. It's fine to talk to them, and especially it's going to help your Japanese as well if you're interacting with the language, in my opinion. Okay, that's it for this video, guys. Obviously, this was a big method for me, like a big process to do this whole study method. So if you've got any questions about what I did and like how to apply it and how to do all this, and you want to know anything more in depth, just leave it in the comments, and in the future I'll make a video on it. If not, I'm going to keep putting out some more content on Kansai-ben and dialects in general, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. Join the Discord as well if you want to learn a dialect, and I've also got a Patreon, so check that out, guys, if you're interested in direct language coaching or anything like that. Thanks, guys.